if you talk, just me.
I'm now unmuted.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's meeting.
Okay, thank you.
We're just doing the Mayor is teaming in from Canberra. We're good to go. All right, so I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners, the custodians of the region, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and their continuing connection with the lands, waters and community. Pay our respects to the elders past, present and their descendants. At the 12th of July ordinary meeting, the Council of the City of Swan Meeting Procedures Local Law was introduced and was adopted, took effect yesterday on the 8th of August. So therefore, as of tonight's meeting, those meeting local laws are in place. And in the white folders you have, it would give you an indication of the times that are now applicable. Some of the key points to remember: as all members in accordance with the MPLL meeting, a member must at all times address through the presiding member. Point 2, 2 minutes per speaker for making public statements. 3 minutes for each member's debate, but can be extended if granted by council without debate can exceed 5 minutes. The disclaimer: terms and conditions of entry of this meeting are posted on the door as you enter. Please ensure you've read them prior to attending this meeting and abide by them. Thank you. So in attendance, we have myself, Councillor Catalano, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Predovnik is running late, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Jones, Councillor McCulloch, Councillor Richardson. I'm unsure where Councillor Richardson is running late. Councillor Henderson is in the room, Councillor Parry and Councillor Knight. The Mayor, Councillor Lucas, is teaming in from Canberra, as I said before. And the staff are listed in the run sheet, and there are apologies from Councillor Howlett and Councillor Singh tonight. Declarations of financial and proximity interest and interest in affecting impartiality. Councillor Henderson declared a proximity interest in 4.2. Proposed amendment to number 20 of Local Planning Scheme number 17 to update the period of operation of provisions of the development of contribution area number 2, Dayton, bracketed DCA 2, end bracket, various liable lands on Dayton, LPS 17-220, and the proposed Henley Brook Avenue is adjacent to his home. Councillor Bowman declared an impartiality interest in item C 1.2, Ellenbrook Eastern T-ball equipment storage sea container, as his daughter plays T-ball. His wife is the manager of the T-ball team, and he occasionally fills in as coach for the Ellenbrook Eastern T-ball club. Number 5, public question time. Questions and answers recorded in the minutes of the meeting may be summarised in accordance with the Local Government Administration Regulation 1996. Questions and answers marked with an asterisk have been amended for either the purpose of summarising or removing preambles and statements and editing, etc. All questions received have been answered and have been provided to the person that submitted the questions. All questions will be published in the minutes of this meeting. So there were questions in 5.1. We're taking those. Mr. Gary Wepner, you had those questions. 5.2, questions relating to reports contained in the agenda. 5.2.1, questions which due notice had been given, there are nil. 5.2.2, questions without due notice. Is there any member in the public that wishes to ask a question on an item in the agenda? Please come over to the microphone, press the button and tell us who you are, please.
Thank you. My name's Amanda Dawn. Item 3.1, the proposed $65,000 Fur Babies event in place of the Women's Big Bash League. The Big Bash League attracted a national audience through television coverage, 5.3 million, and live stream broadcasts of 8.8 million. And this was seen in previous reports to council as one of the benefits that justified spending such a lot of money on the event. Does council expect this national exposure will be replicated through a dog picnic?
I don't know how I could answer that question, Ms. Dawn, of what publicity it will get, because the event hasn't happened yet.
Do you think it will actually be broadcast to 8.8 million people? A picnic?
I have no idea what the broadcast level will be.
All right. Can the city inform councillors and the community how much the 2019 Fur Babies event at Swan Active Midland cost?
Mr. Acting CEO, you can answer that for me.
I might refer that to the Acting Director.
Thank you. Through the chair, the budget for 2019 was $60,000 for that event.
Why haven't other options for use of the $65,000 been presented to council, such as spending it on improving the Dayton Dog Park or other services and amenities in the city?
CEO, Acting CEO.
Yes, I'll refer that to the Director.
Item 4.4, proposed MRS amendment of Reed Highway and Bennett Springs. Is council aware the land is adjacent to a Bush Forever site and is too close to Reed Highway to be suitable for residential development, which would be subject to noise and traffic pollution?
I'm personally aware of where the location is, and I'm sure the councillors who read the agenda would know where it is as well.
Item C 1.1 regarding a university or TAFE in the Whiteman area. Is council aware this will further erode important habitats for Carnaby cockatoos and that the Whiteman Park Metronet station is expected to be able to transport future students to existing tertiary facilities?
I think, Ms Storm, the location for this hasn't been identified. It is a letter of request to look at the possibilities of this establishment.
Thank you.
Any further questions? No? Then I will move on to 5.3, other questions. 5.3.1, questions which due notice has been given. We received questions again from Mr Gary Wepner and from Ms Karen Mowat. Is there any member of the public that wishes to ask a question on an item that is not on the agenda? Mr Wepner, come forward to the microphone, thank you.
Good evening, Mr Deputy Mayor. Evening all. Just a question on behalf of residents of West Bullsbrook. Could staff please provide an update on when City of Swan, in conjunction with Main Roads, will be commencing the upgrade at the intersection of Rutland Road and Great Northern Highway in Bullsbrook?
I'll address a question to the Acting CEO.
Yeah, I'll take that on notice.
Thank you. And then my grandson currently plays for Ellenbrook United Football Club at the Ellenbrook Sports Hub. The pitch is artificial turf and was originally supplied and installed to FIFA standards. The president of the club, Mr Mark Ongier, has advised that not only was the entire pitch resurfaced about 3 years ago, we believe under warranty, but there seems to be an ongoing issue with maintenance or the quality of the turf, again causing disruption to the club and obviously the players attending, especially on a Saturday morning. Repairs are again underway, which raises ongoing concerns for the club and members. Could council or staff please advise who has the maintenance contract for the turf? How long does the contract run for? Cost of the contract, what are the manufacturer's recommendations for the maintenance program, and then to confirm that the maintenance program is being carried out as per the manufacturer's recommendations, and who is monitoring this?
Take those questions on notice, Mr Wepner, and if I could have those list of questions for the staff so we can address those for each
Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Mayor.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, we'll now move on to a public statement time. And we have Mandeep Singh that wants to present a 2-minute public statement. If you can come forward to the microphone, please, and good evening to you. Press the mic on. Thank you. That's it?
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
All right, good evening and thank you for this opportunity. Today we're here to acknowledge the recent Sikh events that have occurred in the city of Swan. As you all know, that the recent killings of Sikh activists in the diaspora by the majoritarian fascist Indian state government has shaken the Sikh members of the city of Swan. Sikh activists have been fighting for their right to self-determination and liberation of their homeland, Punjab, and we've been collectively honoring their courage, resilience, and dedication, values that are fundamental to democratic countries like us. Avtar Singh Khanda was poisoned in the UK. Very recently, Harjinder Singh Nijjar, who is the Gurdwara president, was shot dead in the Gurdwara in Canada. The Sikh Gurdwara of Perth and very many other places have put up programs that have remembered and respected these specific activists. There is a Transnational Repression Policy Act 831 being considered in the US Senate, which is a significant step towards providing protection for Sikh activists who are facing direct interference and violence from the Indian state. This act signifies a global call for justice, human rights, and safeguarding of the fundamental principles of democracies, and also allows us to stand in solidarity with the Christians of Manipur and the Muslims of Haryana. As we gather here in unity, let us all pledge to continue the legacy of these activists who have fought for justice, self-determination, freedom. Let us also work together to create a world where individuals can practice their faith freely. Our commitment to human rights and justice, like in Australia, should be steadfast. In the end, I would like to ask the City of Swan to be our voice, write to our federal members on our behalf, and bring up the safety of Sikh activists living in Australia, and we must put an end to the Indian government interference and influence in the Australian democracy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. So 7 petitions. I understand there's a petition to be presented tonight, so I want to have the suspend standing orders to accept the petition. Moved Councillor Parry, seconded by Councillor Henderson. So we can have the petition presented, please. Yep. Oh, sorry. Is there anyone against suspension of standing orders? No? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Mr Deputy Mayor, I'd like to present the petition for staff parking during office hours of Midland Community Mental Health Clinic. It says, who's impacted? Midland Community Mental Health Clinic provides mental health care for people living in the Swan Council area. We are a multidisciplinary workforce of 100 central staff during the office hour in Midland. Majority of the staff have to drive the vehicles and park in Midland area whilst at work. For this reason, staff of Midland Mental Health Clinic need designated parking areas so they can provide essential services to patients, clients who live with mental health conditions. What is at stake? Staff should not leave the patients in order to move their cars according to restricted parking hours prescribed by Swan Council at times. If staff had to move the car during provision of mental health care for patients, it would impact significantly on the patient's safety and well-being. Why is now the time to act? Midland Mental Health Clinic staff were given permission to park along the railway parade by Swan Council in November 2021. It's been sufficient until the commencement of the construction of a new Midland train station where Transperth commuters used to park free. Currently, this permitted area has been significantly taken up by the construction workers, Transperth commuters and NDIS staff. Therefore, it's imperative to action this matter now by Swan Council. Suggestion: Midland Community Mental Health staff would like to have parking restriction zones across in Railway Parade and Victoria Street. It is signed by 71 people, Mr Deputy Mayor.
Thank you very much. If you could present it up to the table. Thank you. And I need someone to move that the petition be referred to the CEO to take the appropriate action. Thank you, Councillor Parry, seconded by Councillor Henderson. Is there anyone opposed? No, I declare that carried. Now I need to come back from standing orders to the meeting. Councillor Parry, Councillor Henderson, is there anyone opposed to that? And we're back to the meeting. Thank you, everyone. Resuming now. 8 deputations. Deputations for items on the agenda were heard at the agenda forum held on the 2nd of August 2023. Announcements by the presiding member. I have nil. 10 leave of absence, so 2 leave of absence. One is for Councillor Zanino, 7th of August to the 11th of August, and one for myself, 21st of August to the 25th of August. I need someone to approve.
I noticed for Councillor Zanino it's the 7th of August. My understanding is you can't backdate, so it'd have to be from the 9th of August.
Mr. I don't know, Mr. CO or governance?
I'll refer that to the Manager of Governance. My understanding is that Councillor Zanino did submit the application a while ago, and this was the first opportunity to present it, but I'll defer to the Manager of Governance.
Through you, presiding member, also section 2.253 capital A of the Act, whilst it's actually silent on retrospective approval, it does actually have the words that it can't be approved after the meeting has closed. In this instance, the meeting has just commenced, and this is the first ordinary council meeting which this request could be presented at.
So, I move up. Councillor Parry, second. Councillor Henderson. Is there anyone opposed? Declare it carried. Thank you. Confirmation of minutes number 11, 12.1. Confirmation of minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 2nd of July, 2023. I need a resolution to accept. Councillor Parry. Councillor Bowman. Anyone against? No. Carried. Thank you very much. Any business left over from the previous meeting is nil. In the absence of the Mayor, who's online and not in the chamber, and me having to deputise in his place, I would like to seek someone to assist me.
Councillor Catalano.
So you're moving Councillor Catalano. Anyone else?
I move Councillor Parry.
Okay. We'll deal with this by a show of hands. By a show of hands. Okay. Also, all those in favour of Councillor Catalano? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All those, the show of hands for Councillor Parry. 1, 2, myself is 3, 4, 5, 6. Councillor Parry and the Mayor. 7. 7 for Councillor Parry. All right. You want to remain seated there, or do you want to come up here? I'll sit here. Okay. Roger. Okay, so we'll go on to the items of council. Adoption of those recommendations contained in items not withdrawn. For the benefit of the members observing in the meeting, the council uses an en bloc method of decision making. This means the agenda items where council supports the officer's recommendations are not debated separately. One vote is taken on all of the items, and the officer's recommendation is therefore the decision of council. The following items have not been withdrawn for individual consideration and will be dealt with in the en bloc vote. Therefore, the officer's recommendations will be the decision of the council. So in Part B 2.1, policy reviews. 4.3, proposed amendment 221 to Local Planning Scheme 17 to update the period of operation provisions of Development Contributions Area number 3, Caversham, bracket DCA 3 and bracket and various liable lands in Caversham, LPS 17221. 6.1, the Financial Management Report for the period ending the 30th of June. 6.2, list of accounts paid June 2023, and 6.3, change in basis of valuation OCM on the 9th of August 2023. The following reports, sorry, I need to move in a second for those items. Councillor Parry, second, got a mental block, the early get out of bed in Canberra this morning. I'll do Councillor McCulloch. Anyone opposed? Anyone opposed? No. Declare it carried. Right. The following reports in Part B and C have been withdrawn for debate in accordance with the Meeting Procedures Local Law 2019 and will be dealt with by Council individually. Items withdrawn as they require an absolute majority vote and no alternate motions submitted. Items withdrawn with alternate motions are and require absolute majority vote. So we have in Part B 3.1, Alternative Women's Big Bash League, and that requires an absolute majority. 4.1, proposed amendment 219 Local Planning Scheme 17, that requires a majority vote. 4.2, proposed amendment to 220 Local Planning Scheme 17 to update the period of operation provision, that requires a simple majority. 4.4, the proposed Metropolitan Regional Scheme Amendment 1402-7, read Highway Bennett Springs. 5.1, the Aquatic Strategy, is a simple majority. 7.1, proposed amendment to Delegation 29, Statutory Planning, simple majority. And then we have two items in the confidential, C3.1 and C3.2. All right, and we can move to the first one, which is the proposed motion by Councillor Catalano, 4.1. You can read your...
3.1.
Oh, beg your pardon, I'm sorry.
Why do you choose to ignore me, Mr. Mayor?
It was a very early
Unfortunate,
start at 5 o'clock this morning, I have to tell you. Sorry, 3.1, alternative Women's Big Bash League event proposal, Councillor Parry. This requires an absolute majority.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I move that Council resolve to 1, utilise the $65,000 for minor modifications to city facilities to improve the adequacy for female patrons. 2, record the reason for this alternative motion is that the City of Swan should continue to reinvest in women's participation in sport to ensure that our girls and women have the ability to play in the WBBL, AFLW and other women's sports.
Seconder, Councillor Henderson.
Question.
Okay, just let me get past this bit here first. Your questions, Councillor Catalano. Councillor Johnson first.
Thank you. Yeah, my question is, I've previously been advised that to change the budget at this point in time requires a revocation motion. So I'm wondering why this one does not require a revocation motion.
Mr. Acting CEO.
I might refer to the Manager of Governance or Corporate, our Director.
So, in accordance with the Act, Council can amend the budget by absolute majority.
Further
Okay,
questions?
that's fine. That's different to what I've heard previously. Thank you.
Councillor Catalano, question.
Yeah, that was my question. Why the absolute majority?
Okay, so you've got your answer now.
And that is that's the answer because we're amending the budget, correct? Yeah, okay.
Okay,
The other thing I wanted to do is could I move an amendment to your reasons, that's all. Have you actually, can I move an amendment to your reason?
move an amendment to the reason.
Yes.
I'm unsure, I'm sorry. So I'll throw, sorry, I'll
Well,
ask the-
that's part of the
sorry.
motion, isn't it, the
Thank you.
reason?
I'll ask the governance officer to give me some advice. I've never had a reason amended before, so it's new for me.
Presiding member, I think if you and Councillor Parry are happy to accept an amended reason and it doesn't offend, then I can't see any reason why you wouldn't.
All right, well, perhaps then you'd like to give us the amendment you'd like to...
Oh, yes, thank you. I just wanted to change the word of our girls. And, you know, I actually find that quite offensive. Do I need to say why? Yeah, because I find it quite offensive because actually I'm a girl, as says our girls and women, and actually I don't belong to anybody. You know, there's no proprietary interest over me.
Councillor, can I just have, please, your amendment to
Yeah,
it? Thank you.
it should be over girls, to ensure that girls and women. No, I know, but I just want to clear that up so that, you know, because it is offensive to some people.
So Councillor Parry's happy with that. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
All right, so is there anyone opposed? Councillor McCulloch, do you wish to debate it? I do, thank you. Okay, then I'll get Councillor Parry to open your debate. And you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. My motion is very simply to accelerate the projects that we, as a council, have approved for the adequacy of sports facilities for female patrons. This includes the Carragini Pavilion, Ferguson North Pavilion, Kingfisher South Pavilion, Maguire Pavilion as well, which we're going to start from 31-32, 27-28, 26-27 and 30-31, the years to date. If you look at the TV ratings this week, councillors, it's very simple. The number one item of people watching TV on Free TV is women's soccer. It's a continuous growing facility that we need to facilitate in this community as well. We're the fastest growing community in all of Metro Perth, and we need to continue to provide these facilities for women's sports. I've continuously said throughout my term in council as well, bringing up these issues, is that we should continue to improve our facilities for all patrons that we have and try and make them as inclusive as physically possible as well. All I'm doing is asking for a small amendment to accelerate projects that we already have in our budget for the forward years, and that's all I'm asking for, rather than spending it on a one-day event. We can invest in our females' participation in sports in the City of Swan. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Henderson, seconder.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor, and I'll be brief. Councillor Parry has adequately covered the key points. What I really wanted to add is that I am really concerned that out of the blue we see a shift of funding from one concept which Council had approved to another one, and here it is in front of us. I didn't like the way that happened, and I think just to support the point though that Councillor Parry has made is that we do need to more broadly look at how we support our sport, and his motion does that. Thank you.
Okay. Question? Thank you, Councillor Richardson.
Thank you, through you to staff. I'm not sure where this 65,000 is going to be spent specifically, or at which location, and going on the 100,000 that was spent at Ellenbrook at EDOS for change rooms and modifications. What will the $65,000 entail, and who will decide where the 65,000, which sporting facility it's going to, in which area?
Mr. Coden.
Yes, through you, Mr Deputy Mayor. So, as outlined in the officer comment, staff would prepare a scope of work involving minor modifications. So the actual locations haven't been selected as yet, but they would be selected from the priority list that Council adopted when it considered a report on this matter a while ago. So there was a number of pavilions that were identified in priority order for that. And minor work would be undertaken at a variety of them, so petitions in some of the showers, mirrors, PowerPoints, etc. So we would put together a scope of work, but that hasn't been done yet. But it would be across a range of facilities throughout the city.
Okay. Councillor McCulloch, you indicated being against.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Councillors, we're considering an event. I don't want to be dogmatic, and I don't think I'm barking up the wrong tree, but this is actually not about dogs. It's about people, and it's about our residents. It's about building social capital across the city of Swan, and events and activations where our communities come together for certain reasons and passions and interests actually provide valuable places to connect, to network, and to take hold of utilising city facilities and feeling that there is a gift in what the city is providing amidst our roads, rates and rubbish. I can tell you, as one of the organisers of some of the biggest events across the city of Swan for our community that are free events, people that come are very grateful and they really see value in it. So I will foreshadow the officer's recommendation if Councillor Parry's motion fails. Now, yes, we've heard that there is national exposure for the Big Bash Basketball League. It's significant.
Point of order, Mr Mayor. It's not a basketball league, it's a cricket event.
League, sorry, Big Bash League. Sorry, Councillor Parry. I'm sure that city staff will be looking for future opportunities in those realms. We've got a good balance of other valuable events across the city that the city helps to facilitate and support. Some incredible NAIDOC events that celebrate our community and First Nations people. Multicultural events that are of great significance. And as a large metropolitan local government, I have seen significant events through the cities of Wanneroo and Joondalup and Stirling, and I would hope that as another significant local government that we are continuing to provide those activations for our residents as well. Yes, the facilities are important, but there are streams of funding and provision in our budgets that we can make sure we have that inclusivity and provision. I wouldn't like to see the funding moved for such an important community activation. Yes, we received a breakdown of what this event would entail, and it's a reasonable breakdown where we could see 8,000 to 10,000 people
30 seconds,
actually involved and enjoying this great event that will still be at Lilac Hill, that will still benefit the cricket club and enable them to raise much needed funds. So councillors, I would hope that you would see this very positively and look at supporting this for a bigger picture and for those great community events that the city knows and has a great reputation for running. Thank you.
Councillor. For the motion? Against the motion? Question. Councillor Bowman.
Just a question through you, Mr Deputy Mayor, to the Acting CEO. Obviously the report he was talking about was the March 23 report, where we had high priority, medium priority and low priority. When it was previously raised about bringing some of those low priority, low hanging fruits forward, staff said that typically they consider upgrades such as time of building renewal. This enables the required building upgrade to be addressed when the building is scheduled for major renewal works to prevent repetitive works. And then it also mentioned that about the low priority ones, that they were originally programmed to be incorporated as part of a major building refurbishment. So bringing forward one component of work would result in additional costs and disruptions to user groups when the remaining renewal works occur in the future. That was the information we got provided back in March. Is that different now, or will we do it different? Will it be the low priorities where it talks about just the additional mirrors, the additional PowerPoints and those things, or will we be going towards those high priority ones where we need to do a lot more work as well?
Yeah, so we would be doing it a little bit differently. What we had proposed on doing, what we'd normally do would be when we do this work, do a full build at the same time as full building refurbishment. So some of this work would be done in advance of the building refurbishment. So example, some of the things where the full refurbishments proposed in 3031, we would do a small component such as shower partitions and doors now, and some of the others where a full refurbishment's proposed in a number of years would do the mirrors and PowerPoints now.
Okay, so I've already asked for anyone against the motion. Councillor Johnston.
Yeah, I'm speaking for the motion, Mr Deputy Mayor. Councillors, when this came up, Councillor Parry's alternate motion came up, it did rather take me by surprise. I read it through and I thought, that's a remarkably good idea. I thought we need more good ideas on council. Council, we've had strong feedback from the community that I don't think it's appropriate to spend $65,000 on an event for dogs, and I'm advised, though I don't know the source of it, that a previous Fur Babies event organised by the city cost just $13,000. So I'm quite surprised by the scale of the spend for Fur Babies. I presume we're simply allocating the entire budget that would have been allocated to Big Bash League to Fur Babies. I don't see how we could spend that much money on it. Look, as Councillor Parry says, the intention of the Big Bash League was to promote women's sport and upgrading facilities to support female users of sporting facilities is surely in line with the original intention of spending the $65,000. It's not anything that council or the city has done that has led us down the path of having to find an alternative way of spending the money. It's the success of women's sport, so we should be supporting that. So the fact that the Women's Big Bash League has moved from Lilac Hill Park to the Wacker is a sign of good things, so we should be supporting that. If we were to allocate the $65,000 to community events, I'd like to see it go to events organised by the community, so I'd like to see it go into a fund along those lines, but we don't have an alternate motion for that. In the event that Councillor Parry's motion fails, I'd like to defer this. I'd like to move a deferment motion, or I foreshadow a deferment motion, to ask the staff to look at alternative ways of spending the money on smaller scale community events. Thank you.
Someone for the motion? Someone against the motion? Councillor Parry.
The one thing I heard the most was about social capital. I'll tell you what brings social capital. That's sporting clubs. If you look around the community, for example, my Balladura Football Club, you see parents talking to each other all the time from 8 o'clock all the way to about 11 o'clock on the Saturday afternoon. And again, Sunday for Auskick as well, from 9 to 12 as well. The biggest benefit of social capital is sporting clubs in our local community. this motion actually provides more facilities to do so. I strongly believe that we should be spending more on women's sports, and this is one way to do it. And that's why it's better than spending on one day event for dogs and for people as well. I strongly believe that women's facilities have not been kept up in the past 10 years, and we need to spend a lot more than just $65,000. But hey, that's always the next budget. So let's go from there. Thank you very much.
Okay, put it to the vote. All those in favour of Councillor Parry's motion? Councillor Jones, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Catalano, Councillor Parry, Councillor Knight, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Richardson. Just keep your hands up, please. And the Mayor. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The Mayor is 9. The motion is carried. Thank you. 4.1, proposed amendment 219 of the local planning scheme number 17 to update the period of operation provisions of development contributions area number 1, Brabham, bracket DCA 1, variable liable lands in Brabham. Councillor Catalano, you could start your
Yes,
motion.
thank you. My motion is that the council resolve to 1. Defer amending the provision of the period of operations for DCA 1 for Brabham DCP to run for a further period of time to 2034 that until A. The CEO has briefed and provided a report to council that 1. Updates the Brabham DCA 1 and DCP, it should be in there, and DCP. Can we include that, and DCP?
Keep going.
Can we do that?
Yep, just keep going, yes.
To reflect planning decisions made since 2014. 2. Investigates and analyses the future need for the associated infrastructure outlined in the Brabham DCA 1 and DCP. Record the reasons is A. Both Drumpellier Drive and Northlink, which have been constructed since 2014, are not planned for, referred to or intended in this Brabham DCA 1, and therefore 1. And I'm going to make a change here. Reference to Lord Street, which still appears in the DCA 1, have become redundant as this road now needs to be correctly renamed. And then you could just remove the rest of that sentence. And 2, it may not be necessary for the city to continue with plans to construct Henley Brook Avenue. It should be Avenue instead of Drive. On the second one, Henley Brook Avenue. Given the impact this will have on the Gnangara Mound and Perth's water supply and the natural environment of Bush Forever Site 200, on the Swan Valley, on cost to ratepayers and the creation of sustainable future traffic solutions.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Knight.
Question, if I may.
Question.
Mr Deputy Mayor, can I have an explanation how this would impact the Gnangara Water Mound?
Mr Acting CEO, could you answer that?
I might refer that to the Director of Planning, though it was Councillor Catalano's motion and her reason, so she may.
Well, I think we get an answer from staff.
Mr Deputy Mayor, the impact of the road would have been assessed when the MRS application was assessed to align the road at the time. So those impacts would have been addressed at the time, and I don't have the details of that available to share that with you at this stage, but it must have been looked at the time when the MRS was approved, and Henley Brook Avenue is already shown as a blue road in the MRS.
Thank you. Is there anyone against? Councillor Bowman.
Could I ask the mover if they'll remove the reference to the impact on the Gnangara Water Mound?
You can ask the question.
I can give you an answer that in the report that I read, they definitely...
Sorry, councillor, he's asking whether you would remove that in your reasons.
well, no, not with, not, no,
Okay,
not,
all right.
not evidence.
That's
it's
fine,
not given.
thank you. I just needed that. So we have councillor Bowman against. Can you please start your opening address?
Thank you. This is a developer contribution plan, DCP, for the Brabham Developer Contribution Area, for which developer contribution funds collected now are reserved for big ticket infrastructure items such as roads. The key issues in the officer's report on the surface look like completely innocent administrative amendments to update the period of operation, which is effectively an amendment to the local planning scheme, the LPS. Since my deferral motion was tabled, officers have stated it takes 12 months to modify the LPS, and by that rationale, even this DCP amendment will not be able to modify the LPS by the April 2024 deadline. As my motion points out, other amendments to this DCP need to be made to correct all reference to Lord Street and to determine the future land resumptions and construction or not of Henley Brook Avenue. It makes sense for all these amendments of the LPS to be done at the same time. My deferral motion is not about delaying roads or adding cost to ratepayers, as been sadly stated in the officer's report. It is about correcting the name of roads and implementing the March 2021 decision of Council for the CEO to brief Council about the future of Henley Brook Avenue. After 2 years, this has still not been done. The point is that the officer's report still doesn't clarify this if this amendment tonight will override the March 2021 decision of Council to put on hold all works and land resumptions for Henley Brook Avenue south of Park Street and for Council to be briefed. This decision tonight will override that decision and land resumption and works will again continue on Henley Brook Avenue. If Council has not been briefed tonight, or how can tonight, it hasn't been briefed, which it hasn't, how can it tonight make, without all the facts and detailed reports, properly determine if the construction of Henley Brook Avenue south of Park Street is still appropriate for the future of the city, its residents and ratepayers? If we don't defer this decision tonight, then Council is making an uninformed decision to put a road through a Bush Forever site. And remember, we are the decision makers responsible for looking after biodiversity assets in our city, and we will be blamed if the Bush Forever site, which has recognised threatened ecological communities, is degraded and destroyed. To defer and review is the best practice to avoid potentially catastrophic results. Carrying on with an old plan does not address changes to our real world and gives the green light for future development that may ultimately be shown to be harmful to human communities through the loss of biodiversity and the natural environment. We need to look at sustainable transport options because more road traffic creates more car traffic, more road infrastructure creates
Councillor.
more...
Thank you.
Can I continue?
No, councillor. Thank you. Thank you in the gallery, please. Councillor Knight.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, so just following on, it concerns me, the Bush Forever. These aren't big areas that, these Bush Forever sites. And Bush Forever surely means Bush Forever. It's not bush until, you know, somebody decides to put a road through it. I guess, you know, it could be justified if we had a good tree canopy in the city. You know, we could, you know, maybe absorb these losses, but we don't have a good tree canopy, and we need to protect this land. And I think we're going in this is just the wrong direction. We're supposed to be going to a net zero, and we should be protecting our trees and our bush, and not building roads. And it's just the reverse of what we should be doing. And when are we going to kind of take stock of what we got, and when are we going to rationalise the infrastructure that we have and use it more efficiently? I just don't think we can keep taking and not giving anything back. So I would hope that this doesn't go through, and really the city would fight for these areas to try and retain them, because it's very important, and not just be a rubber stamp for, you know, the destruction of them. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Mr Deputy Mayor, I'm concerned that the staff have not correct statements made by the following previous two councillors. They're actually incorrect. Mr Deputy Mayor, this is not about a Bush Forever site. This is about extending, and I'm going to read the officer's comments because it quite clearly puts it, and I can't do better myself. It should be emphasised that the purpose of this council item is purely to extend the lifespan of the DCP as a requirement under the current planning framework. Any modifications, and we've heard about some suggested modifications, that may be required to be made to the DCP, which has not yet been confirmed, is a separate matter that in itself will be reliant on the requested extension to the initial 10-year period of the DCP implementation. You want to make changes, you have to extend it. It's as simple as that. Without extending it, you can't make changes. So whether councillors support or not support any of those suggestions that I heard in the previous two debates, it's all reliant on actually extending the period. Pretty simple outcome here. We need to extend it, and then we can look at what changes we want to do. Don't extend it, and we can't. But please, Mr Deputy Mayor, if I'm incorrect, please ask the Director to correct me.
Someone else for the motion? Someone against the motion? Councillor Henderson.
Deputy Mayor, I just want to follow up on previous speaker, Councillor Bowman. Councillors, 1995 MRS. I'm sure Mayor Lucas online will remember this well. Councillor Fertig and myself, former Councillor Fertig, fought tooth and nail against the North East Corridor Plan incorporating Brabham and others. And we based it all on water issues alone. This is Palace Plain, and to make that habitable, you've got to do a hell of a lot to it to make it work. Point is, the state, was the state government then, removes priority 1 water allocation from this land. It was taken to priority 3 like that to say, okay, too bad, so sad you can't use that water anymore, we're going to put houses all over it. That was the state. Now, the DCP, again, when we had that fight, the council actually supported both of us. We ended up in front of the minister on the mat and were told, you fix it or I'll fix it. Guess what? Play games with this and the minister's going to put us on the mat and do exactly the same. Because frankly, we have no say on these matters at all because they're done, they're dusted, and it's happening. So for our ratepayers, this is the DCP, for our ratepayers, we've got to ensure that we cover off on DCP to be able to look after the infrastructure that's needed. As for trees, well, thousands of them were flattened for a rail line, so we could talk about our tree cover. And as for the Bush Forever site, I fought for that for 30 years, and I'd go absolutely crazy if Henley-Brook Avenue went through and took 1 square inch of the Bush Forever site. I want to be clear about the Bush Forever site. So, councillors, I believe that we have to support this. I was really concerned that the issue of the Nangara water main is very wrongly put into a reason, and I think we need to be much more circumspect on how we deal with what will ultimately impact our ratepayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor, someone for the motion? Anyone against the motion? Councillor McCulloch.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Councillors, Councillor Bowman and Councillor Henderson have alluded to a lot of the facts that we're looking at in this report. We're not making an uninformed decision. I, like councillors here, I'm sure you've read the report. I've reconciled the report to relevant city information and documents. I've asked relevant questions. I'm not making an uninformed decision. In relation to, and Councillor Bowman referred to some of the officers' comments that pertain to the officer's recommendation. And I will foreshadow, because I don't know if anyone has, the officer's recommendation if this fails. If we're looking at aspects of this item pertaining to the Darwin National Highway, this road identified as the primary regional road on those DCP maps was never included as a shared infrastructure item in the DCP. Upgrades to Isadoon Street are still required. This serves as a critical neighbourhood-to-neighbourhood link between Brabham and Dayton. There are inextricable links in this report and what we're looking at into the future. And the future of Henley Brook Avenue south of Park Street is a matter that is currently being reviewed as a result of a council resolution. Decisions between now and April 24 that may impact the future of that section of Henley Brook Ave and its status in the DCP will require a modification to the DCP and its associated local planning scheme amendments to facilitate the implementation of the decision. Councillors, I'm happy with the officer's recommendation. I will foreshadow it. I urge you to not support this motion before us.
Thank you. Anyone else for or against? Now, before I move over to you, Councillor Catalano, the acting CEO, would like to make a comment. Oh, the Mayor, sorry. Councillor Lucas.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Congdon. I think another point that I'd like to raise is that if you read the officer's report in, I believe, the middle paragraph towards the bottom, if the current DCP is amended or changed, the city would have to refund to the current landowners all the contributions to date, and those additional costs would be then borne by all the ratepayers of the City of Swan. So from a financial point of view, I don't believe it would be prudent to play around with the DCP as the motion suggests, particularly refunding the DCPs that have been collected to date, and then those costs would have to be shifted on to the ratepayers of the City of Swan. I think that's also an important consideration in our deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I hand it over to you, Councillor Catalano, the acting CEO wants to make a comment.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I think it is important to clarify, in the debate it was mentioned that this would be a decision that would override the previous council resolution on Henley Brook Avenue, and that's not the case. So this is just a decision to extend the time. So the previous council resolution on Henley Brook Avenue is still in place, and there was two key aspects to that. One was that the city undertake traffic modelling, and the other was that the city get confirmation from the Minister as to her plans for Henley Brook Avenue. And when those two pieces of information are completed, then a briefing session of council will be arranged. And we are still waiting on clarification from the Minister, but we are following up regularly, and as soon as we arrange that, we will be presenting a briefing session and then a report to council to make a decision on the construction of Henley Brook Avenue.
Councillor Catalano, right to reply.
Well, I am pleased to hear that it's been confirmed, because it wasn't previously given in any of the officers' reports, that the previous decision of council made in 2021 still stands and will still stand, even though this decision is made tonight. And that means that there won't be a resumption of any land for Henley Brook Avenue, and there won't be any more works done on Henley Brook Avenue until the staff have spoken to the Minister and we've been briefed. And I'm pleased that I've moved this motion now to get that result. But I just also want to say, you know, we can talk about 1995, but I tell you what, the world has moved on from 1995. And I think a lot of different decisions will be made now than what were made then, particularly about our natural environment and how much we depend and will depend, and our grandchildren and our children will depend on retaining the natural environment. And you know, I sort of got the idea that there's a little bit of reluctance to change the DCP, to look at that Henley Brook Avenue and to see how it impacts on the Bush Forever site. which I believe will be catastrophic. And I just want to say, you know, that we do need to look at more sustainable ways to get people around our city. And we need to do that by not relying on car transport, but by relying on public transport.
Point of order, was that raised in debate?
It wasn't raised in debate, so Councillor, continue, please.
Thank you. Henley Brook Avenue, this is what this is all about. That's why I've raised it tonight. And what we've got to do is we've got to have a briefing session. That's why I've asked for the deferral. In fact, all of the amendments, including the renaming of Lord Street to Issoudun Street, which is, you know, all I intended. There was no intention of, you know, not putting any money into it or taking money out or giving money back for that street. It's all about Henley Brook Avenue and the impact on the natural environment, on the Bush Forever site, because it's going to bisect it into two. That means that all the life won't be able to cross between the two sections. It'll be degraded by pollution, by noise, by light. It'll be catastrophic for that site and for our natural environment. What's left of it? What is left of it, people? So, you know, that is why I say, really, what we should do now is just step back, do a deferral tonight and get ourselves properly briefed and informed. You know, Council, how can you object to a briefing session? How can you object to being informed? How can you not want to just, for such an important issue, just take a step back and say, are we getting this right? It's your children, it's your grandchildren. This is our responsibility. We've got biodiversity strategies to support it.
Thank you. Sorry, if I could please ask the gallery, thank you. It's the second time, please, thank you. I'm now going to put it to the vote. All those in favour of Councillor Catalano's, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Catalano, Councillor Knight, which is 3. All those that are against, Councillor Jones, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Prodovnik, myself, Councillor Parry, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Richardson, Councillor McCulloch, and on the screen, Councillor Lucas. You got all those captured? So the motion is lost.
Motion.
Officer's recommendation. Councillor McCulloch is moving second to the officer's recommendation. Councillor Jones. Is there anyone opposed?
Yes, I am.
Do you wish to debate it?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I wish to put the motion.
You wish to put the motion?
It needs an 8 majority as well.
It does. Okay, we have a motion to put the motion. So all those in favour of put the motion? Sorry, the seconder. Councillor McCulloch, thank you. So, show of hands to put the motion. That's lost. You need 8. Sorry. All right. So, Councillor McCulloch.
I'll reserve my right, thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor.
And the seconder.
I don't wish to add anything further, thanks.
Okay. Councillor Catalano.
Yes, thank you. Well, I don't believe that we should be approving this amendment tonight. What I think we should be doing is looking at the 3 issues that I've previously raised in my debate, and that is we can talk about the extension of time or the update to the period of operation of provisions. We can look at renaming and revising all and correcting all of the road names and the different other aspects to it that I might not even be aware of, and we can have made our decision what we're going to do and going to be doing about Henley Brook Avenue in the future. And those amendments all go together in the one amendment of the DCP. And I don't see any reason whatsoever as to why this can't wait. This important issue can't wait. I just do not believe. Look, I know about extensions of time. There's plenty of instances in you know, the law where people apply, where people have to apply for extensions of times when they're out of time. An extension of time for an important issue is always granted. Now, there are reasons why we need to have this time to be able to come to the right decision about Henley Brook Avenue. And that is why I say we shouldn't be rushing into it tonight. This has been sprung on us. We don't have that briefing session that we were promised 2 years ago. Why not? Why not? The review is in hand. Is it? I didn't know anything about it 2 years ago. We were supposed to be getting on with it. So I say from tonight, let's just put it all on hold, not approve this, and let's get on with the review of Henley Brook Avenue, as this council asked for 2 years ago. So, you know, I just want to also say to defer and review is best practice to avoid potentially catastrophic results. Carrying on with an old plan does not address changes in our real
Point of
world
order, Mr. Mayor.
and
The
gives
Deputy
the
Mayor.
green light.
Can you please resume your seat as a point of order? Thank you.
My apologies, I can't quote the section because I haven't got the updated meeting procedure local law, but that item has been lost and we're actually debating the one in front of us now.
I accept your point of order. Can you continue and make sure the references don't pertain
What's
to
the
the motion
reference
that's
to?
lost?
To defer and review?
So motion has already been lost. We're talking
Yeah, I
about-
know,
we're
but
talking about
I'm talking about not making the decision tonight and making it at another time. This decision here tonight, and I don't want to use up my time arguing about that. This is about carrying on with an old plan that doesn't address changes in our real world and gives the green light for future development that may ultimately be shown to be harmful to human communities through the loss of biodiversity and the natural environment. We need to look at sustainable transport options because more road infrastructure creates more car traffic and we have already an over-reliance on car use. Roads result in less public transport, which in the long run is the only sustainable option. We need less car journeys, not more. Better, and we need better protection of the natural environment, which is becoming increasingly rare. Henley Brook Avenue is another old plan from the days when Lord Street was to be the Perth-Darwin Highway. Now Northlink provides this function and Drumpellier Drive is a distributor road linking Ellenbrook to Reed Highway.
Time, thank you. Speakers for the motion, Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Mr. Deputy Mayor, I'm going to talk about the relevance of this actual motion in front of us. And I'm going to say exactly what I said last time, but I'll keep it shorter. It should be emphasised that the purpose of this council item and this recommendation before us is purely to extend the lifespan of the DCP as a requirement under the current planning framework. Any modifications that may be required to be made to the DCP, which has not yet been confirmed, is a separate matter that in itself will be reliant on the requested extension to the initial 10-year period of the DCP for the implementation. Mr. Deputy Mayor, as I said last time, if we want to change, any councillors want to change, council wants to change, you must extend it first before you can change it.
Thank you. Against the council resolution? Okay. Then you have your right of reply, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Councillors, again, and I reiterate, the future of Henley Brook Avenue south of Park Street is a matter that is currently being reviewed as a result of a council resolution. Any decision between now and April 24 that may impact the future of that section of Henley Brook Ave and its status in the DCP will require a modification and the associated scheme amendments. Councillors, a deferral isn't practicable for this, and this hasn't been sprung on us. References to transport, canopy and everything. The city is always looking at future transport needs, and in every consideration with some of these approvals and long-term considerations for this city, it is first and foremost in front of us, and it's built into our strategic community plans and business plans. Again, we're looking at environmental factors and how they contribute to a lot of this future planning as well. So those considerations are all taken into account. And in conclusion, the initiation of Amendment 219 to the Local Planning Scheme number 17 will ensure the provisions for the period of operation for Development Contribution Area number 1, Brabham, are updated in a timely and transparent method consistent with the State Planning Policy 3.6 Infrastructure and Contributions, specifying that period of operation for the DCP being 20 years from April the 4th, 2014, and should see the DCA area developed out. So I urge you to support the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Jones, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Prodovnik, myself, Councillor Parry, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Richardson, Councillor McCulloch and Councillor Lucas. Those opposed? Councillor Johnson, Councillor Catalano and Councillor Knight. Do you have all those? Kathy? Motion is carried.
Motion to suspend part of the meeting procedure local law, Mr. Presiding Member.
And for the purpose?
Section 30.1. The part I want to suspend is section 6.1, members to occupy own seats.
Members to
occupy their own seats for the reason that you are not occupying your own seat and you either move or we fine you $1,000. Under section 14.1.
Through you, Mr. Acting CEO.
I'll refer that to the Manager of Governance.
To the Governance Officer, please.
Through you, Presiding Member, the meeting procedures local law does state at section 6.1 that members are to occupy, that council is to allot a position at the council table to each member, and each member is to occupy that position at each council meeting. It may be that councils wish to move a motion to suspend 6.1.
So we are moving, Mr. Presiding Member. It's pretty straightforward.
I'm going to make it very easy because I think it's an absolute waste of time, Councillor, so I'm going to sit over there and then we can avoid any more of the stupidity of this action. And that's my personal comment. And your smirking, Councillor, to the whole thing doesn't add to it either.
I think you find that's a breach of the meeting procedure local law as well, Mr. Presiding Member.
May well be. So anyway, I will now continue 4.2. Councillor Catalano. Your motion.
Thank you. That Council resolved to, here where are we? Defer amending the provision of the period of operations for DCA 2 for Dayton DCP to run for a further period of time to 2034 until A, the CEO has briefed and provided a report to Council that 1, updates the Dayton DCA 2 to reflect planning decisions made since 2014, and 2, investigates and analyses the future need for the associated infrastructure outlined in Dayton DCA 2. 2, record the reason is A, Drumpellier Drive and Northlink, which have been constructed since 2014, are not planned for, referred to or intended in this Dayton DCA 2, and therefore references to Lord Street, which still appear in DCA 2, have become redundant as this road, and this road needs to be correctly named. And 2, it may not be necessary for the city to continue with plans. Oh, sorry, did you get that? References to will become redundant as this road. No, sorry, it needs to be changed. As this road, number 1, thanks. As this road, thank you, needs to be correctly renamed. And if you could just get rid of the rest of the sentence, thank you. And 2, it may not be necessary for the city to continue with plans to construct Henleybrook Avenue. Thank you. That should be Henleybrook Avenue. No, it's just that. Yep, that's it. Given the impact this will have on the Nangara Mound and Perth's water supply and the natural environment of Bush Forever Site 200 on the Swan Valley, on costs to ratepayers and the creation of sustainable future traffic solutions.
Second up, Councillor Knight. Anyone against? Councillor Bowman, wish to debate it? No. Don't wish to debate it, and we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour of Councillor Catalano's motion? Councillor Johnson, Councillor Catalano, Councillor Knight and Councillor Richardson. Move from my seat. Councillor McCulloch and Councillor Lucas. So the motion is lost.
Move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor McCulloch. Anyone against?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Do you wish to debate it?
Yes, please.
Councillor Bowman, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, it should be emphasised that the purpose of this council item is purely to extend the lifespan of the DCP as a requirement under the current planning framework. Any modification that may be required to be made to the DCP, which has not yet been confirmed, is a separate matter that in itself will be reliant on the requested extension to the initial 10-year period of the DCP for implementation. Mr Mayor, Deputy Mayor, we are talking about an amendment to the extension of the lifespan of the DCP, and I request you ensure all debate is relevant to that item.
Councillor McCulloch is the seconder.
Nothing further to say, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Catalano.
Yes, thank you. Well, I think we should oppose this motion to update the period of operation of provisions for the Dayton DCP. And we know that from the previous item, this is about collecting developer funds for major infrastructure items, and that includes Henleybrook Avenue. As in my previous debate, we've now found out that council decision of 2021 is still on the table, and there's still going to be, they're going to be looking at a review of whether Henleybrook of land acquisitions and works for Henleybrook Avenue. However, tonight council is being asked to make an amendment about, to the LPS for this extension of time, and my argument is that we should actually make that amendment with the 2 other amendments, which is for the renaming of the roads and also to make a decision about what's going to happen with Henleybrook Avenue. And I want to talk about Henleybrook Avenue because it's a very important environmental asset for the city, and I want to remind everybody here on council of our obligations under our own policies. And I also want to remind us that we in the community have already seen what has happened to kangaroos and other fauna moved on by construction of Drumpellier Drive and from developments in Brabham and Dayton.
Point of order, Mr Mayor. 6.8 relevance, we're talking about extension of time to a DCP.
I accept that. If you can please refrain. Thank you, councillor.
It is actually about the DCP itself. So the extension of time of the DCP, and in my view, the impacts of this DCP are going to be, they're going to have harmful and important impacts on our wildlife. And that is why I'm bringing it up, because it is about the removal of bushland and the impacts on bushland and the impacts on bush forever sites. And I wanted to remind us that, you know, we've seen what the destruction of the natural bushland and the natural environment in that area has caused to kangaroos, mammals, lizards, turtles. We've seen them dead and dying on the side of the road. This is what happens when we
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
prioritise.
Point of order.
6.8 relevance. Can we please have a ruling? Are we talking about the extension of a DCP, or are we talking about specifics of the DCP?
We're talking about the DCP.
Thank you. We're talking about the DCP. That's what we're talking about. And that is why I'm saying that we should bring it all together under one amendment with these other two issues, this one issue especially about Henley Brook Drive. Because, as I was trying to say, we need to prioritise nature and our environment over cars. And I can't, with all good conscience, I just cannot allow the ongoing destruction of our biodiversity and natural environment. I have a duty to stand up here for the life of this planet, and I urge you to do the same. And that is why I ask you to support this deferral. Oh, we've moved on. No, this deferral, yes, sorry.
Time, councillor, thank you. Anyone for the motion? Anyone against the motion? I'll ask again, anyone for? Anyone against? Well, so you've already spoken, councillor. Councillor Bowman, right of reply.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Mr. Deputy Mayor, the deferral was lost. And again, I like to emphasise that the purpose of this council item is purely to extend the lifespan of the DCP as a requirement under the current planning framework. Any modification that may be required to be made to the DCP, which has not yet been confirmed, is a separate matter that in itself will be reliant on the requested extension to the initial 10-year period of the DCP for implementation. Councillors, if you want to change the DCP, as I'm hearing from councillors tonight, you must first extend the extension of time. Simple.
I'm going to put it to the vote. All those in favour of the officer's recommendation. Councillor Jones, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Pridovnik, myself, Councillor Parry, Councillor McCulloch and Councillor Lucas. Those against? Councillor Johnson, Councillor Catalano, Councillor Knight and Councillor Richardson. Officer's recommendation is approved. Okay, we'll move on to... He did indicate he left the room. Just one moment. So we go to 4.4, proposed motion by Councillor Catalano. Thanks, Councillor.
Thank you.
Just allow the councillor to be seated, please. Thank you.
That the Council resolves to 1. Advise WAPC that it objects to the MRS amendment 1402-57 Reid Highway Bennett Springs. 2. Not support a concurrent LPS 17 amendment to a residential development zone, and that there will be no requirement for the Bennett Springs East Structure Plan to be amended. 3. That the City does not enter into negotiation with Mirvac WA Proprietary Limited to initiate a variation to the existing developer contribution deed in place for the Illuma estate to seek relevant contribution from the approximate 3.46 hectares. 4. Record reason is A. The development land should not be used for residential as it is too close to Reid Highway and future residents' amenity will be impacted by the noise and pollution from traffic. The land, and B, the land is better suited as a buffer to the residential community as it exists now. and can be used as public open space.
Seconder, Councillor Knight. Is there anyone opposed? Councillor McCulloch, do you wish to speak against it? No? You don't wish to speak against it, and I'll put it to the, sorry, question? Yep.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Mr Deputy Mayor, if I could ask through you to the CEO, probably to the Exec Director of Planning. I know on the 5th of October Council meeting, item 5.1 was the proposed permanent road closure of a portion of Reid Highway, Bennett Springs. This is relevant to this item, is it not?
Through you, Mr Deputy Mayor, that is correct. On the 5th of October 2022, the Council approved a road closure of a section of this part of this reservation that is now in part of this application. And the purpose for that road closure in that report stated that it was surplus land that was identified by government and that they closed the road in order to be able to sell it.
And Mr Deputy Mayor, my next question, I'm just looking at the resolution that was resolved unanimously, so no one was against it, that Council resolves to support the closure of approximately 1,270 metres square of the Reid Highway Road Reserve, Bennett Springs, in accordance with Section 58 of the Land Administration Act. The land is to be amalgamated with the applicant's adjoining land, Lot 801, on deposited plan 70264 Reid Highway, Bennett Springs, subject to the applicant meeting all the costs. And 2, request the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage consider and grant the request for closure of the subject portion of road reserves in accordance with provision 58 and 87. Am I correct that that was the first step to this item here, with this council voted unanimously for, or is this a different step? So probably didn't ask my question quite so well.
Yep, the answer out of Mr Van Lien.
That is correct. That was the first step. It was done in order to create the parcel of land that government wanted to sell, which now forms the land that's part of this MRS amendment.
Okay, thank you. So there was, you got a question?
It doesn't relate to this item. It relates to standing orders. Can I continue with it? Yeah. With the new standing orders, I thought we dealt with the issue of, you know, if one of the opposers doesn't want to continue with the debate, that the debate can still continue. If somebody else on council wants to continue with the debate. I thought that was dealt with because that was in the previous standing orders. I don't believe that was carried through because I think that was one of the reasons why we initially wanted that changed.
Sorry, through you, Presiding Member, clause 8.4. But that's in reference to unopposed business.
It is opposed.
Yeah. But the member may ask if the meeting, if any member opposes it. If no member opposes the motion, the presiding member may declare the motion carried without debate and without taking a vote. A motion declared carried under this clause is to be recorded in the minutes as a unanimous decision of the meeting. 8.43, if a member opposes a motion, the presiding member may ask those members present if they wish to debate the motion. If any member responds in the affirmative, the motion is to be debated. Otherwise, it is to be put to the vote immediately.
No change.
Yeah.
So, sorry, just to clarify that, that means any member of council can actually ask for the matter to be debated?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. That's, I just wanted to clarify that because that did change. Thank you.
Affirmative and negative. Yeah.
Okay.
I would like to debate it.
So as the mover of the motion.
Yes, thank you. As the mover of the motion, I would like to debate it.
Okay, so then that's the case. Councillor Catalano.
Thank you very much. This bit of land that we've been talking about, which is right close to Reid Highway, is better suited as a buffer for the existing residential community in Bennett Springs, in that part of Illumina Estate, part of Bennett Springs, next to Drumpellier Drive there. And it should be used as public open space, as this part of Bennett Springs has high density residential in it. The traffic noise and pollution from Reid Highway is already horrendous for many residents living in close proximity of the highway. Reid Highway negatively impacts on the quiet enjoyment of many residents on both sides of the highway currently, and I've had those complaints made to me in person. We should not be endorsing bad planning that squeezes every last bit of land as residential. We have to think about the future of Bennett Springs, the people who are currently living there, who deserve a buffer to their home, and future residents who will ultimately have to live on this bit of land right next to the highway. We have to provide all residents with suburbs that are safe and promote their well-being, not repeat the same mistakes that have been made with horrendous levels of traffic, almost in people's backyards. And as there appears to be no reduction in our society's dependence on cars and trucks, this is a real problem for those people living adjacent to the Reid Highway. For with the increase in population in Ellenbrook and the opening up of industry in Bullsbrook and the proposed extension of the Reid Highway to Gidgee with Eastlink, the traffic in this area is due to increase massively over the next couple of decades. This council must recognise that this will ultimately impact on the well-being of any community that is located so close to this traffic corridor. I don't see residential suburbs being built practically on top of major highways anywhere else in the metro area. Instead, I see elsewhere road reserves and buffers, and our residents and ratepayers deserve the same. They deserve better lives than that blighted by pollution, noise, truck vibrations and traffic vibrations, and truck drivers peering into their backyards. Please support this motion.
Councillor Knight.
Nothing to add.
Nothing to
Deputy
add.
Mayor, thank you.
Someone for the motion? Someone against the motion? You've already said you didn't wish to talk. Someone against the motion? Okay. Councillor Catalano, right of reply. Nobody spoke. Right of reply. Councillor, you have the right of reply, please.
There isn't really much more to say because nobody's spoken. So, please, common sense. We need to have our future residents. We need to have our suburbs in mind. We need to protect people from this traffic. That corridor, that Reid Highway is going to be...
You can't have a right of reply. She's continuing on another debate.
Make up your mind. Make up your mind. I've just been...
Councillor, just please concentrate on the right of reply. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, why are you interrupting
Councillors,
me?
please. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for not interrupting me.
Thank you.
Thank you. That Reid Highway, from where Northlink meets with Reid Highway, that is just going to be absolutely unbelievably busy in the future.
Right of reply can only be those items that were brought up in debate.
Brought up in debate.
And so it's not brought up in debate.
It's upheld. So please, Councillor, those items that you raised in debate.
I did raise those items in debate, and I'm just making more about
moving
it.
through your time allocation. I'm sure you would like to continue on.
Yes, I would like to continue on by saying that traffic corridor that I've already pointed out in my debate, which is going to form Eastlink, is going to have a huge, tremendous, massive amount of traffic in the future. And that is going to be right up against people's backyards. Already, I drive on Reid Highway and I can see into people's backyards. We don't want this for those people there either. Let's create a buffer. Let's create a bit of public open space. The people there deserve it. Our communities deserve it. The City of Swan deserves to be able to provide that for our communities. So please, councillors, let's make that decision tonight and not approve this, approve this Metropolitan Region Scheme amendment. Let's go with my motion to not approve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Put it to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Johnson, Councillor Catalano, Councillor Knight, Councillor Henderson and Councillor Richardson. I make that 5. All those against? Councillor Jones, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Brodovnik and myself, Councillor Parry, Councillor McCulloch and Councillor Lucas. Motion is lost. Officer's recommendation. I'm looking for some move the officer's recommendation. Thanks, Councillor McCulloch. The seconder, Councillor Jones. Is there anyone opposed?
Yes, sir.
Do you wish to debate it?
No, I'm right this time.
You're right
Thanks.
this time. Okay. And if no one else wishes to speak, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Parry, Councillor McCulloch, Councillor Jones, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Brodovnik and myself and Councillor Lucas on the screen. Those against? Councillor Johnson, Councillor Catalano, Councillor Knight, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Richardson. Motion is carried. 5.1, the Aquatic Strategy Review. Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Mr Deputy Mayor, I move the Council resolves to endorse the aquatic strategy and its implementation through the business planning and budget process with the following amendment. No rationalisation of the current facilities. Number 2 is the officer's recommendation. Number 3, note that the city has been liaising with the state government for in-principle agreement for the provision of the required 4 hectares of land next to the Ellenbrook train station, subject to conditions, and discussions have been progressing positively. Number 4 is the officer's recommendation 3. Number 5 is the officer's amended recommendation 4. And 6 is record the reason for the changes. The state government has been working with the city for the provision of the required 4 hectares of land to enable the City of Swan to construct the proposed facility. The aquatic strategy includes the rationalisation of the current aquatic facility, and this should not be included in the endorsed strategy.
Seconder, Councillor McCulloch. Is anyone opposed?
I've got a question.
Question?
What I'd like to know is this going to cost the ratepayers any more money than has already been quoted?
Well, the report contains information on cost estimates, but detailed costing would be further refined as the design process progresses.
So how will councillors know about increases in costs in the future?
So that would be through a combination of means. There'd be, as outlined in the recommendation, there'll be budget adjustments coming back to council for expenditure and also obviously be adopted as part of the budget. The tender, when that is awarded, will likely come to council for award. And also, as outlined in the report, it is proposed to have regular briefing sessions for councillors as the project progresses.
And what do we think the estimated cost is now?
So the cost for the estimated cost at the moment is about 82 million.
Sorry?
82 million.
82?
82 million.
82 million. That's on top of the reserves that we're already going to.
No, that's the total cost.
That's the total cost. Okay. And just finally, do you anticipate that it's going to blow out much bigger or much greater than 82 million?
Well, I can't really determine the final cost. That's the best information that we've got at the moment. So costs do vary as the design progresses. There's also the opportunity to look for additional funding and also the opportunity to look for value engineering as well to identify areas where funds can be saved.
It was also noted, Councillor, that it would also be dependent on the council's input to improvements to the current provision. So you may want to put a roof over the whole lot. So that may change the costing mech, but that'll be a council decision. End of the questions?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so anyone opposed? Declare it carried. 7.1, which is the proposed amendment to Delegation 29. This is an officer's change. Requires an absolute majority. I need a mover and a seconder. I move Councillor McCulloch. Second, Councillor Parry. Is there anyone against? Declare it carried. Okay, so we'll move now to part C. Part C is motions which previous notice has been given. There is one from C 1.1, which is Councillor Parry, about the tertiary institution to be provided in the Whiteman Master Plan. Councillor Parry.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I wish to move a motion to resolve, Council to resolve that, write a letter to request to the Department of Planning, the Minister of Education, State and Federal, and the federal members of Cowan, Pearce and Hasluck, and the state members of West Swan, Swan Hills, Bassendean and Midland to consider as tertiary, either university or TAFE institutions be provided in the Whiteman Master Plan as part of their consideration. The reason for this motion is that due to the substantial population growth in the East Metropolitan area of Perth, in particular Ellenbrook and the Urban Growth Corridor, the City of Swan should advocate for a tertiary institution to allow their residents the opportunity to advance their education in their local area.
Seconder, Councillor Bowman. Is anyone opposed? Opposed? Okay. Councillor Parry, open to debate.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. My motion is very simple. It's just to write a letter to get this ball rolling to try and bring a tertiary education, or tertiary institution in the East Metro area. If you look at the current driving from Balladura, it takes 26 k's to drive to Curtin, 32 k's to drive to Murdoch, 17 k to go to UWA, and 46 k's to go to Notre Dame and Fremantle. It's too far for a lot of our local residents. The City of Swan is again the fastest growing metro area in Perth, and it makes sense to put a university of tertiary education or TAFE in the area in 10 years' time where they will need it the most. Brabham has one of the youngest communities. If you look at the age demographic between 0 and 5, 15% of that population is within Brabham. Also Ellenbrook as well, 0 to 9 as well. 9.8% of the Ellenbrook population is between 0 and 9. In 10 years' time, these people will need to find tertiary educations either through TAFE or university. And it's important that we start this discussion now. I think it's irrelevant. I think that we have to move on from where we are in regards to the Whiteman Master Plan as well. We can't hold on to our positions that we had 5 years ago. We need hospitals, we need universities, we need more social amenities in that area because of the fact that our community is growing so rapidly as well. If we don't talk about these issues now, when are we ever going to talk about them? And in 10 years' time, when my children want to find a really good tertiary education, I hope they just have to travel down Marshall Road so they can go to university or TAFE as well. I think it's a relevant discussion now. It probably won't happen in the next 1 to 5 years, probably in the 5 to 10. But I think we should start now and get this ball rolling. And by the way, councillors, all those federal members and those state members in their inaugural speeches noted education as one of the main relevant issues that they have as well. Education is what drives our economy in the next 20 years. We are changing from a manufacturing economy to a services economy, where we need to continue our education, improve our economy or our efficiencies within our economy. And a university in TAFE provides us the ability to do so. So that's why I ask you to support the motion. Thank you.
Councillor Bowman is the seconder.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Mr Deputy Mayor, Councillor Parry is right. He is only writing a letter. However, it gets it front and centre. Mr Deputy Mayor, in 2036, 53% of our population in the City of Swan will be in the urban growth, Ellenbrook and Bullsbrook area. That is a significant number of people that need education. Things have changed a bit from when I went to uni living in the City of Swan, where I couldn't even catch 3 buses. I had to drive and catch 3 buses to my closest university, and that actually prevented some people from actually going to university. I think it's a good idea. I think we need to start thinking about it. We need to be proactive in looking ahead. This is what this one does, and I congratulate Councillor Parry for the motion. I think it's a good motion, and happy to support it.
Thank you. Councillor Catalano.
Thank you. Well, there is actually a TAFE already in the East Metro area, and it's actually in Midland. So, in fact, that's perhaps a site that could have been identified for this motion. But I understand you want to have it in Balladura because that's where you come from. But the thing is that...
Point of order, Mr Mayor. Unfortunately, Whiteman, if Councillor Catalano knew the area of Balladura, is not part of the Whiteman plan.
Okay, but it's in that area, it's not in the Midland area. So anyway, just to move on.
Point of order, Mr Mayor. I find it quite ironic that the member for Howard is saying that comment. Thank you.
I think factually, thank you, councillor. I need to uphold that. But factually, he's not requesting it to be in Ballajura. He's requesting it to be in Whiteman.
In Whiteman.
Right, not in Ballajura.
Yes.
If you can retract that, thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
what is Whiteman? I mean, you're talking about that area around Whiteman Park.
Councillor, continue, please.
The thing is that there's plenty of opportunities for people in that area to catch public transport now with the new train station there, to go to, education facility in Midland.
Point of order, Mr Mayor. That's factually incorrect. There is no direct line to Midland from Ballajura, if that's the case, Councillor Catalano.
But there will be a line that takes you down to Midland Line. It's the new rail line. I don't know why you keep interrupting me. The fact is that what I'm trying to say here tonight is, if you had made your motion more prescriptive about where you wanted this TAFE or education facility to be sited, and it wasn't implied that it's to be on the area of Whiteman Park, I would have supported it. Because what I'm trying to say is that I want to protect Whiteman Park from any further development. We've already seen the film studios last week, and if this is really just another way to get more development on Whiteman Park, I'm totally against it. That is what I'm trying to say. Your motion needed to be more descriptive about where you wanted to put this facility. I mean, maybe you had in mind, upgrading Ballajura Community College, or maybe you had a location in Ellenbrook in mind. Because, it is a good idea to have this facility in Ellenbrook, because that is where there is, like you say, the future population of this, large percentage of the future population of the City of Swan are going to be living. And that's why I cannot support your motion tonight, because you don't say that you don't want it on Whiteman Park. And that is what I am concerned about. Whiteman Park has to be protected. And it has to be protected for all those environmental values that we talked about last week, which includes, the habitat and the flora and the fauna.
Thank you, councillor. Thank you. Time. Thank you. So, someone for the motion? Anyone against the motion? Councillor Henderson.
Councillors, I'm really torn on this matter. You've all heard me say how passionate I've been about Whiteman Park, about the maintaining of that land for public purpose, which is what the landowners and Lou Whiteman asked the state to do when they sold it to the state for water. Now, things have changed a little bit, like the DCP argument we had about Dayton. We were told where to go then, and we've been told where to go now, because the state has effectively carved that piece off from the train line all the way down to Marshall Road. And rather than stand on ideology, there's a position's got to be taken here about what do we need in the future. There is no land in Ellenbrook, Councillor Catalano, for a large campus. And if there were, it would cost millions of dollars to buy from the owners up there. The state owns hundreds of acres on the land that they've ripped out of Whiteman Park. Now, I use the word ripped out quite solidly. So where do we stand with this? We do need future facilities. We need a university in particular to service the North East Corridor. North East Corridor has got a train line going straight past there, and it's going to go all the way up to Bullsbrook and further to the north in the future. And university students come from all over, and they will need public access, and that'll be via the train line, which I solidly opposed in its current position. So, as I said, I'm torn on this one. I'll be keen to listen to the closing debate, but at this stage, I think we're going to have to be pragmatic about what we've been told to do by the state government. Thank you.
For Against? Councillor, one moment. Can you please take... Sorry, Councillor Johnson, you are for or against?
I'm going to speak against it, Mr. Mayor, but I want to say this is another one of those these motions where councils are forced to vote one way or another, and when it's finally balanced, such as this one, I think it's important that councils explain themselves. We're only writing a letter, and it's doubtful that the letter would have much influence, but we do know that these letters are read, and who knows, it may have a potential small deciding factor. I don't believe that we need to do more development in Whiteman Park. And when I think about the provision of tertiary education in Western Australia, one thing I'm aware of is that successful tertiary establishments, universities and the like, are generally the larger ones. The bigger they are, the more successful they are, the better the quality of the education, the more funding they've got, the more research they can do, the more they're able to develop themselves. I think that Western Australia, particularly the metropolitan area, has, where I think is the only place we have universities here, has plenty of universities at the moment. And my view, although we're only writing a letter here, we're not funding it, we're not making a decision, we're very peripheral players here. I think it is better to, if I was pressing the button or making a decision, it'd be better to build up the existing tertiary establishments and make them bigger with more students and more funding, rather than proliferating tertiary establishments in the metropolitan area. I'm sort of torn on this one, councillors. I'm like sort of 60% thinking it's 55%, it's not such a good idea, 45%, it is a good idea. But as you know, we're forced to vote 100% one way or the other. So unless another councillor speaks tonight, and I do wish more councillors would speak on these items, I'll be voting against Councillor Parry's motion. Not that I think it's a bad idea, it's just that I think there's other ways of getting a successful outcome. I really would have liked to have seen in the staff's report some explanation of the different tertiary establishments there are in the area and what the impact might be on those. But we don't have that information, so it makes it extremely hard to vote. But still, it's a letter, it may have some influence and we have to make up our minds. So please, other councillors, will you get up and stand and talk about the benefits of tertiary education, whether we should have another one or not? It would help me make my mind up. Thank you.
Thank you. If you could, no, what I would like you to, well, I want to speak, so I'd like you to put the stopwatch on me. I'd like to talk to it. Thank you.
I've had my hand up for a while.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor. So I'll Councillor Lucas, please go.
Thank you. I'll keep it as brief as I can. What's the harm in writing a letter? If we can make our local, state and federal members aware of the desire for the City of Swan to have a tertiary education in our northeastern area, I don't think we should limit it to just the Whiteman, immediate Whiteman area. It may perhaps go north of Allenbrook, between Bullsbrook, a community that will grow to over 20,000, will eventually be connected to the train line. And it's difficult to say, but we've already had discussions this week whilst we're in Canberra with 2 WA senators raising the opportunity of a tertiary education. They said they'd very welcome a letter from the City of Swan furthering that idea, and even if it was a satellite of an existing university which could be shared amongst various faculties, because we know that not all the times in the day are for certain subjects, so they could use it on a rotational basis wherever it could be built. So writing a letter, putting it out there to our state and federal parliamentarians is the start. We lose nothing by writing a letter seeking assistance and putting the vision of what the City of Swan wants into the future. Thank you, Mr. Presiding Mayor.
Thank you. All right, so now if you could please take over. Thank you. Councillors, I was in those meetings with the Mayor when this was discussed. But I think more importantly for this council, we're heading down a population growth of approximately 80,000 people in the Northern Corridor, and we simply do not have any tertiary facilities in the Northern District. If a letter prompts someone to go, we need to think about this, and not necessarily in the Whiteman master plan, but it just prompts them to think about the future residents of the City of Swan and those that are in close proximity as well, then it might do a lot better than not writing at all. So I think the plan to write to the ministers is not going to do any harm except a simple letter. And if they come back and they go, thank you, but it's not our intention to do any of that stuff on Whiteman Park, all well and good, but they might have an intention to look at it somewhere else. And that way they can come back and advise us. So I'll be supporting it. Thank you. Councillor Parry, your right of reply.
I think one thing that we note in regards to the Whiteman plan, which I did vote against the rail alignment down Whiteman Park, and I would have preferred it down Reed Highway, is the fact we keep on hearing about urbanisation and the densities that we have in our local area, including Brabham, Dayton and Caversham as well. I find it quite ironic that we don't start asking questions in regards to social amenities that we are required, like universities, hospitals, again, which we need to do. Unfortunately, there is not much land around the City of Swan either. We have the Swan Valley, which is pretty much, we can't do much there. We've got land up in North Ellenbrook and stuff like that, yeah, but it's too far away from a lot of the people within other suburbs as well. If you look down Beachborough, that's fully capacitated. Balladura is full. All those other areas that are established have been developed to the point that we can't add anything like this anymore. It is just a suggestion, it is just a letter, and it is for the future of our children as well. As Councillor Catalano keeps on bringing about the environment, that's a valid point, but also as education. How can we teach the people, or how do we give people the ability to learn about how do we sustain in the future without building these facilities like universities and TAFEs as well? I think that's quite important. We just can't keep looking at the environment. We also got to look at our education system and our economy as well. And that's what universities and TAFEs do. So let's put it to a vote.
Thank you. So I'll put Councillor Parry's motion to the vote. All those in favour? So we've got Councillor Jones, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Predovnik, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Lucas, myself, Councillor Parry, Councillor Knight, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Richardson and Councillor McCulloch. Those against? Councillor Catalano, motion's carried. Thank you. All right, move on to C 1.2, Councillor Henderson, Ellenbrook Eastern T-Ball Club Equipment Storage C Container.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillors, I move that Councillor resolve that. One, the City of Swan allow the Ellenbrook East T-Ball Club Incorporated to purchase and install, with the assistance of the City, a 20-foot sea container to be placed on the northern side and adjacent to the existing 2 sea containers on Coolamon Oval, to be A, painted and maintained by the club the same colour as the other sea containers, B, situated directly on the ground without the need for a concrete slab. There's lengthy reasons, and I'll read those out, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you.
The local community have demonstrated their need for the infrastructure to service their growing member numbers participating in the sport. Members are currently having to store large and cumbersome equipment needed for the sport at their homes and transport it on trailers to the ground for games and training. Moving the equipment is an additional burden on the T-Ball Club members and will be more accessible on site. Utilising trailers to move the equipment around and returned into a container post the game is more efficient and less handling. Existing space in the pavilion being offered is needed for clothing, merchandising, materials, etc., which are sensitive to condensation built up in a sea container. There will be little impact on the visual amenity, as the container would be placed adjacent to the existing 2 containers. The T-Ball Club may be able to source engineering advice and certifications pro bono, and if there are any requirements for special anchoring. The T-ball club members will benefit from better facilities providing long-term services to the local community. Thank you.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor McCulloch. Is there anyone against? No one against. I declare it carried. Thank you. So, notice of motions for consideration at the following meeting are given. There aren't any at the moment. And then we will move on to the confidential items.
I've got
for all those persons
question, if I may, Mr Mayor.
Yes.
Mr Presiding Member, in notices of motion it says at the bottom, deadline for submissions will be 5 p.m. Monday the 22nd of August. Just can I get the rationale from the Governance Officer behind 5 p.m?
Why is it 5 p.m?
Yes.
End of close of business?
Close of business? Yeah, in which case, when is the start of business?
Start of business is 8 a.m. as far as
8
I'm
a.m.
aware.
Okay. And does the Governance Officer agree?
Yes, the
Sorry, does
governance,
the governance officer, excuse me, sorry, does the governance officer what?
May I ask if the Governance Officer agrees that the business day is 8 a.m. to 5 p.m, as you just said?
Do you agree that it's 8 a.m. to 5 p.m?
Yes, I do, Presiding Member.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry?
Moving to go behind closed doors
Yeah, I
for
just wanted
confidential
to,
items.
yes, but I need to vacate the gallery. We're going to move to confidential items. If the gallery could please move to Councillor Bannon, seconded Councillor Parry. We will go behind closed doors. The gallery, if you like to make your way out of the chamber, thank you, and thank you for your attendance. There, for the purpose of those who are at home, the confidential items of C3.1, Council resolved to authorise the CEO to progress negotiations, execute contract of sale for the acquisition of Lot 1, bracket 84, and Lot 2, bracket 82, Morrison Road, Midland, for a price not exceeding the acquisition price recommended under the financial implications section in the report, and approve the use funding from the Strategic Development Reserve and commence with the statutory process to create proposed lots 803, 807 in accordance with the Midland Oval Redevelopment Master Plan. And item C3.2, the Council resolved to approve the request for the extension of the material commencement date applicable to Lot 201, number 3, the Junction Parade, Midland. Latest date, stage 2 for 12 months, October 14, 2023 and October 13, 2024, as per the clause of 3.3 bracketed D of the Sale of Development Agreement. Thank you. That's it. So all online, thank you for listening. Councillors, thank you very much indeed. That concludes tonight's agenda.